Ryan, how do I get rich in real estate in 2025?
Dude, I mean, you specifically or somebody who's broke?
Well,
or, you know, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, well, selfishly, this is going to be like a coaching session slash, I guess a coaching session for the listeners also on how to get rich this year in 2025.
So I started coaching you in 2018.
Yeah.
So now this is year 8.
This is year 8 and we're still going.
Yeah, we still made it. So you've made money.
Yeah.
You've had a pretty good life.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny is it always just changed over these years, right?
Exactly.
Like I've told you to originally flip, and then I was like, you should do social media, do some podcasting, you should buy some Airbnbs.
Yeah.
So like you do a good job of listening, and then but it takes like a year.
Yeah, I'm always a year behind.
Yeah.
So whatever you tell me, I won't start till 2026, but I want to know right now.
So everyone else listening, just know that's been Brian's like MO the last 8 years.
Yeah. So like really though, how do you think me and other people will get rich in real estate in 2025?
Well, I think a lot of people listening have probably heard me talk about this cash flow 2.0 thing.
Yeah.
But like the 2-minute rundown is I just really love wholesaling for cash flow.
Yeah.
Because rentals just don't work anymore for cash flow.
Yeah.
Just in almost every major market, there is no cash flow in real estate or in rentals, I should say. And I think that everyone's main priority should be increasing their monthly cash flow.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people are super focused on net worth and, oh man, I own all these rentals and I'm building assets. And that's great. But there's always this balance of the short term and the long term. And for me anyways, I would rather fix the short term first, AKA your active income.
Yeah.
And then as time goes on, if you have a lot of active income, that allows you to now start investing in long-term assets. Yeah. But you can't invest in long-term assets if you have no active income.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's priority should be, hey, how much do I need to make per month and how can I go get that?
Yeah. So let's say everyone listening to this, they want to make $1 million. I want to make $1 million. That's like net.
Net million.
Net million.
I mean, most people aren't thinking about net million.
Yeah, but most people would want.
But by the way, that's a great point too about deciding what path to go. Because if you said, hey, I want to net $10 million.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to change your goal and like how you go about it.
Exactly.
You know, because to net $10 million is super hard flipping houses. Like I don't really know anyone that's ever net $10 million in a year flipping houses.
Yeah.
Now, I know commercial guys who have done it because they sell one big deal that makes 20 million bucks, 30 million bucks. So if the goal's $1 million, then that's going to change the game versus somebody whose goal is 100,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's say I want to net $1 million and the listeners could take that and shrink it down to 100K. If I want to net $1 million flipping and wholesaling, but I want to be 70-80% wholesale, 10 to 20% flipping.
Okay.
And I'm doing pretty much direct to agent / wholesale / MLS right now / relationships.
So let me tell you what I'm going to do because it's the same thing for even my goal.
Yeah.
So my goal next year is I want to get my wholesale innovation business to a consistent $300K a month top line.
Yeah.
And then I want my flipping business to be at $200K a month top line. Now, is that going to average out for the whole year? Probably not. It's going to take time to like normalize those rates.
Yeah.
Because I just started buying flips again.
Yeah.
But my math is this. If I can make $500K a month top line, I think there's a good chance I can net about 40% of that. And so 40% of 500K is 200K, which is, call it a little over $2 million bucks net.
Yeah.
That's my goal. So the math is going to be pretty similar for you. It's just cut in half.
Yeah. The math is easy. It's more strategy and also mindset because I'll tell you what happened this year. And this is going to be a yearly review also for both of us.
Okay.
So this year, I wanted to get proof of concept because I kind of stepped away from real estate. And now I'm like, okay, I need to get back in real estate, right? But then I also didn't want it to be just on my back. Like if I could freaking produce $1 million in revenue myself, I wanted to build a team. So we started a team, got Justin here. We had some salespeople. Some people worked, some people didn't work.
Yep.
And what I think my biggest mistake this year was, I think I stayed too small. So like I had a good salesperson named Dom. He was producing. He was getting a deal every single week. He left. And then we had to scramble to get someone else in, and then they didn't produce.
Yep.
And then we had to get rid of them.
Just constantly scrambling.
Constantly scrambling because I stayed too small.
Yeah.
And I just came to the realization today where I'm like, okay, like if we want to do $1 million to $2 million next year, I thought I could do it with a team of 4. I was like, 2 salespeople, me.
It's possible if no one ever left and they were established.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
but what's it take to get there?
Exactly. So now my new plan is I need to get about 6 salespeople, knowing that 2 are going to produce, 2 are going to be up and coming, and 2 are just going to be a waste of time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, probably more are going to be a waste of time than that.
Yeah.
But Cardone actually said this to me years ago. He was like, it's actually riskier to play small.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, how's that the case? I mean, you got so much overhead, so much expense. He's like, yeah, because if you're small and your one sales guy leaves you, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a deal.
Yeah.
But if I have 50 salespeople and 5 people leave, whatever.
Yeah.
We ain't stopping. No big deal. And I've seen that true in my career over and over again, where it's like, I think right now, this is actually the least amount of employees we've had in the last, 3 years.
Yeah.
And we have like 40.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though we've had lots of transition and change and all these things, we've always been able to make money in just lots of different ways, because if one person leaves or one thing stops working, there's still other things that are working.
Yeah.
So what I will say is, so I'll go back to my plan and how I'm going to get to my numbers, and then you just cut it in half.
Okay.
So at $300K a month on the wholesale innovation side, I think I'll have to spend about $50K on average. We'll call it $60K.
Yeah.
$60K would be a 5X on marketing. So if I spend $60K and my average commission is about 20%. So I go 10% to acquisition, 10%. By the way, this is another thing where scale helps, because if you have more leads for them and they're doing more deals themselves, you could pay less commission.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus if you only have so many leads, you got to pay probably 20% to your acquisition guy.
That's what I pay right now. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you actually lose efficiency being small.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm paying 20% on the on the commissions. So that's on 300K. What is 60? That? That's 60K. I'm spending 60K on marketing. So I'm at 120.
Yeah.
So that leaves me,
180.
180 in gross margin. So that's 60% still. And then at that point, my only other costs are a TC, the office is kind of interesting because it's just all part of the company. So I don't really count it towards that one specific business.
Yeah.
And then I have Monty, my COO, who gets a percentage of net. But other than that, that's basically all the costs. So we should theoretically net about 40% at that scale on the wholesale.
Yeah.
Now, with the flipping, I don't really want to flip our direct to seller stuff. Okay. My whole goal on the flips is to get 4 referral based flips every month. And I want them to make at least 50K. I'm not doing any flips that make 30K or below.
Yeah.
And I used to, and that was fine, but 50K or only, or over only. So, we've already bought a couple that fit that criteria from the MLS, from wholesalers, realtor relationships. We're not doing any agent outreach or anything. I'm not prospecting trying to.
Yeah.
It's just telling everyone that I'm buying again. And guess what?
Yeah.
Less people are buying today than ever. I did a little mastermind last week that you were in.
Yeah.
I brought all the top flippers in Vegas, and everybody was buying less. Everybody's buy box has changed. I was like, oh, okay. It's actually a good time to hop back into flipping, because people aren't overbidding each other like they were a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So anyways, the way I look at the flipping business is, if I have, 400 or 4 deals a month at 50K, it's 200K. It doesn't really cost me much acquisition, because these wholesalers just send them for free. They send them to Monty. It's part of his job.
Yeah.
And then I hired an MLS guy. So the MLS guy just gets paid a commission on deals he finds from just being an agent.
Was that Javi's guy?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, first off, he was my guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he's full time now. He just switched over. And so I think he alone will get at least 2 to 3 a month.
Yeah.
He was already doing that. So all we got to do is get 1 or 2 a month from wholesalers and everyone. It's not going to be hard.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's almost 100% net.
Yeah.
Because at that point, there's no marketing expense. There's no commission expense, at least when we buy it.
So what do you pay him then?
He's already just getting the commission on the deal as the agent.
Oh,
so he's not making anything off the profit.
What if he doesn't get to represent you?
He always does.
Oh, okay. So he has to represent you.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So he's making a commission there. And then, we have one project manager. So he's just per project. So it's already included into, the cost of just the renovation. That's how I look at it. And yeah, I mean, that should be like all net. So actually, now that I'm talking about it out loud, theoretically, if we hit our goals, we should net over 50%.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think happened in 2024 in your real estate business?
Well, I think there was a lot of testing. So to go back to 22, all I did was really flip.
Yeah.
And so I would say 90+% of the deals we did was flips because the market was so hot. It's all good.
Yeah.
Then when rates changed, they doubled, tripled even in some cases. And I ended up losing millions because I'm holding $20 million worth of flips, all this stuff. I'm like, dang. So I ended up having to pay back all my investors, take the loss personally. Thankfully, I had cash and assets and other things. And so, everybody was able to get paid back. But, man, it was a super hard experience.
Yeah.
So 23, we just wholesaled, flipped very sparingly.
Yeah.
Just trying to sell off all the bad deals from 22, really.
Yeah.
And the wholesales were just kind of offsetting those losses.
Yeah.
So then we go into 24, and I'm just kind of looking at the whole landscape of the game, and I'm just noticing that, like, all the things we had been doing for years are starting to trend down. So I see that our TV commercials that we've been running for 4 years aren't working the way they used to.
Yeah.
I'm seeing cold calling and texting start to get way worse.
Yeah.
I'm seeing like everybody just struggling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I got to try something new. So I'm like, well, we've already spent millions on social media and Facebook ads and all this. So I started doing Facebook ads.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know what I was doing as far as like direct to seller with Facebook ads because we just had never done it. But I spent the first 3 months of the year perfecting that. And we did it nationwide. We were testing it all over the country and getting leads for super cheap, locking up deals like crazy. The problem was we couldn't convert them because we just didn't understand dispo. We didn't understand a lot of things. So then Q2, we go back to Vegas and we start having success. And, with the cash conversion cycle of real estate, if you start locking up deals today, you're not making money until month 2, 3, or 4 down the road. So all of that success, started to come in Q3 from the deals we were locking up in Q2 in Vegas. Then we started to really get good at perfecting the novation pitch.
Yeah.
Because we were still going on like in-person appointments and all this stuff. And I realized that these social media leads did not want an in-person appointment. They're like, bro, like, just give me the offer.
Yeah.
They're very different than TV. You got to understand your demographic when you market. Like with TV, it's all old people. Yeah. They're used to like meeting in person. With social media, they're used to submitting on freaking Zillow or Open Door or whatever and getting a thing. So that took time to figure out like, oh, this is how it works. So yeah, long story short, we figured out the sales process about halfway through. We figured out how to get the leads cheap, about halfway through.
Yeah.
And then I threw a whole curveball in it and we started doing these things called lead packs that now all of our students get. And because we had to generate a bunch of leads, for our students. Problem was my team got so many leads with us like doing this that they actually got way worse.
Yeah.
So they were doing good. But when you go from having, say, 20 leads a day to 100, they couldn't focus. So then they started ignoring the Vegas leads. It's like, oh, we got to get through all these leads.
Yeah.
And so that was a whole thing. So I dealt with that in Q4, like realizing this whole new issue of too many leads is a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I look at 2024 for me, I'm just like, man, that was a whole year of testing.
Yeah.
Like so many just different things left and right, trying to figure out this and that. And thankfully we still made money, but it's like at the end of the day, I'm really excited for 25 now because there's no more testing.
Yeah.
Like it's like we know what we're doing now.
Yeah. What would you say? Well, first, like that's what we've noticed. So we brought in another salesperson, and like one of our salespeople just blew up this month and did 100K. And it's because he got half of the leads that he was getting before. Hey, quick break from the podcast. So first of all, if you haven't yet, subscribe to this YouTube channel. We interview the top investors across the country, And you could learn everything you need to flip, wholesale, and do real estate by just subscribing to this channel. Also, if you want one-on-one coaching from myself, all you need to do is go to the link in the description of this video and reach out, fill out the form. We will call you and see if we will be a good fit. Also, if you want to partner with me on a deal in Las Vegas, California, or any major market in America, again, go to the link in the description of this video, fill out the form. We'll reach out to you to see if coaching fits, if you need money for funding, or if you want a JV, you need help dispoing, or you want to partner with us on a deal, just go to the link in the description and fill out the link. Now let's get back to the podcast. So before they were more focused on calling through the leads than like working the leads and making sure their pipelines and stuff were clean. So we saw that too. But I was going to ask you, what do you think was like your biggest win in 2024 and your biggest like lesson?
Biggest win? Dude, so many wins. You know, I wrote, this is the second year I wrote a company annual like letter. So I stole this idea from Warren Buffett. He writes a shareholder letter to Berkshire Hathaway. So I wrote one to Pineda Company last year, and then I did it again, well, I guess 2 years ago, and now I did it again last year in 2024. And so I just kind of like reflected on the whole year of like the ups, the downs, and all these things. And so I say like the satisfying things, I mean, heck, I'll just read it to you right now because that's, well, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll read the part about the wins. So I said that, you know, I started off and I said, man, I get so many mixed emotions. I felt joy, gratitude, disappointment, growth, struggle, and basically everything in between. Going into this year, I knew I was going to experience a lot of change. The real estate market was shifting, education industry is going into recession, and there's a lot of uncertainty of how to navigate. I didn't have all the answers to begin the year, but I had faith we would try enough things and eventually figure it out. And then I said, you know, for the things that worked, man, we built a marketing department this last year that we didn't have before. We developed a new CRM. We started doing seller marketing on Facebook that was really successful. We launched Wealthy You for $97 a month. We created Lead Kitchen and Lead Packs. We launched Wealthy Lending. We started doing more novations. We built a virtual workshop model. We changed all the coaching to subscription. We launched Tent Makers, Kingdom Nights, and Kingdom Summit for Wealthy Kingdom. And I said, it's miraculous that all of these new things ended up working out as well as they did. So like lots of great things were built last year that never existed. But it took a lot of struggle to figure it out. We spent hundreds of thousands testing ads that made no money because we just were testing. I mean, it's R&D. We didn't know what was going to work and what wasn't. We didn't know the sales process. So we basically wasted hundreds of thousands in Q1 and Q2 figuring out what was going to work. We tried and failed different ways to pitch sellers. And we had to realize that we had to go virtual. We had to go novation, all these things. You know, we had to shut down different companies. We had to put certain companies on the back burner. We had to prune previously successful things in order for everything else to succeed. And then I put this in bold. Just because something worked in the past does not mean it is worth doing in the future. More isn't better. More causes distractions and a dilution of resources. And, you know, there was a whole bunch of other stuff to that. But, yeah, when I think about the biggest failures, it's hard for me to think they're failures because they led to figuring out the success.
That's why I said lessons.
The lesson was when you know you're in a season of change and pivots, you have to try new things. You cannot just do what that's why I highlighted the end. I'm like, just because it worked before does not mean it's going to work in the future. And you got to be able to see the signs that it doesn't work. So like, for example, TV commercials, I mean, they made us millions for many, many years. And it's like, if I can just keep seeing it trending down, I can't just keep doing it. You know, social media is always changing. Like if I see one day that just the podcast is not worth doing anymore, I got to be willing to accept that and move on. And people aren't willing to do that.
So I've told people over the years, one of the things that I've seen that has made you so successful is you're willing to go all in on stuff when it's working. And when it works, your upside is like 100 to 1,000x, where other people, they'll get like a 1x or a 2x because they're scared to go all in. So I'll give you an example. So this is a hypothetical. So just people get it. But you could translate this to flipping houses, novating, wholesaling. Back in the day, you saw flipping worked. So you're like, okay, you know, I put in $1, I get $2. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise money and put all my money and put it on the table and put $100, and you got back 200, and then you put 200 in, you got 400, and it quickly compounded where someone else will say, okay, I want to flip houses. I put in $1. Okay, I got back $1. Okay, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to put $1 in again.
Yeah.
And they'll stay in that $1 thing for years. And then the problem with that is then flipping doesn't work anymore. And then they have to redo that whole thing they just did in a different vertical where you already made so much money. And if it stops working, that's fine. You'll just find another vertical that works in, and then you'll go all in on it.
Yep.
But that's what I've seen, like watching you over the last few years, where you'll make so much money because you're not afraid to, like, when something's working, to really throttle it, where other people will kind of like go slow.
Yeah. Well, and that comes with being an investor. So that has nothing to do with being a business person. Being a business person is, hey, I find a deal, I fix it up, I flip it, and we're good. I know how to wholesale, so I, do this thing. Mm-hmm. Being an investor is, I only have a certain amount of resources. And investing is not just money. Money is just one resource. Mm-hmm. The other parts of resources are your time, right? How much time do I personally have? And then labor. How much of the labor that I have available to me am I willing to put towards this new thing? Mm-hmm. So when I said that more isn't better, it's because it dilutes resources. It dilutes labor that we already have into being spread thin.
Yeah.
It dilutes capital that I have that I could be putting towards one thing.
Yeah.
And it dilutes my time and energy to be innovative, and do whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think most people just aren't actually very good investors. Because they don't understand how to invest those three things properly.
Yeah. What do you think about, like, okay, so if we go back to the $1 million thing, or the, the $1 to $3 million thing.
Yep.
So let's talk about the people people that it takes. So I have my COO in the room, right? Justin, shout out to Justin. Justin crushed it this year. And we were talking about, like, what happened this year.
Yep.
And then I was like, okay, maybe...
is that why Justin's switching? So
yeah, exactly. This is like a big coaching thing.
Okay, good.
I got him.
Justin also started as a student.
Yeah. Justin also was a student, so shout out to him.
Yep.
So, but seriously, I was like, okay, so if we want to double next year or triple, do I need to find someone that's more sales focused?
Yes.
So, okay. So let's talk about if someone's trying to scale a company, what kind of leadership should they look for?
Yeah. So obviously I'm super sales and marketing driven.
Yeah.
Naturally. If I was the one focused on the house flipping and wholesaling and that's all I did, we could be at 10 million. I really think that.
Yeah.
I just have lots of things still going. Even my minimalized thing is still lots of
more than everyone else.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, I still got, we got Wealthy Investor, I got Wealthy Kingdom, we're doing all these
content.
Things. Yeah, I got to make content. I got the podcast. Tent makers. Like we're growing so many things at once. And so even then it's like, I still have to ask myself that question. Is that the best use of my time and energy?
Yeah.
Because if I think that, right, that would be scenario one where I'm like, well, if I only focused on this, could I do that for $10 million? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's the cap. Now, if I focus only on this and that, what is it?
Yeah.
And I already know it's above 10 million because we've already done it before.
Yeah.
Right? So clearly this would be a better path, at least when it comes to making money. But even the education side is also a better path in terms of helping other people. Because if I just, flip and wholesale for my own team, like I only impact my own team.
Yeah.
So anyways, there's other things to consider with your time. That's me thinking about my time and energy as a resource.
Yeah. I want to come back to that too, because that's going to relate to people that have jobs and all these different things. But yeah, back to the leadership thing.
Yep. So on the leadership side, right, I have really, I've thought about this a lot over the years now, where right now I have Monty as my COO. He's been there for the last couple of years. He's been with me since 2019. So a lot of people on my team have been with me for years at Home Run Offer, which is very rare in any business. Monty is not sales driven. So Monty has always had a tough time managing the sales team. And so he's always asked for help with sales.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with a wholesaling and house flipping business, the leader does have to be sales driven. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
The whole business of wholesaling is literally sales.
Yes, sales and marketing, yeah.
And marketing's automated.
Yep.
It's like, dude, if we do your marketing, you don't even have to worry about marketing.
Yeah.
At that point, you literally just have to do sales.
Yeah.
So that becomes the hard part where the leader somebody has to push revenue.
Yeah.
And so I've been debating with this problem for a while now where it's like, okay, Monty is super good at KPIs. He's very good at management. He's good at getting projects done. He's good at dispo. But managing acquisition guys isn't his strong suit, nor does he like to do it.
Yeah.
So, I've had Michael do it. And, the problem even having Michael doing it is Michael still paid the majority of his money from the deals he closes himself.
Yeah.
So for him, it's just still like, well, is it in his best interest for the whole company's revenue to worry about and all this stuff?
Yeah.
So, finally, I just had seen enough of it. And I said, okay, Javi, it's your job now.
Yeah.
You're in charge of revenue.
Yeah.
And you're in charge of it on the wholesale and novation side.
Yeah.
You've managed these wealthy investor sales guys and different sales guys like really good.
Yeah.
But you've never focused on home runs.
Yeah.
I want you to do it for home run now. And so he's already doing it and making lots of changes that should have been made a year ago.
Yeah.
And so he's doing a great job. And so now that's off Monty's plate. Now Monty can focus on also too house flipping, which we haven't focused on in the last year and a half. So I told Monty, I said, hey, go back in the field and build relationships so we can go get those 4 flips a month. And so now those are easy for him because it's not really a sale.
Yeah, it's like a relationship.
Yeah. So, by the way, this is another good thing people need to know. If you're a good house flipper and you built your whole business off getting deals from agents and wholesalers, odds are you probably suck at direct to seller.
Yeah.
It is not the same thing.
Yeah.
Relationships is not sales really that much.
Yeah.
It's, do you pay more than everyone else?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And so, I just told Monty, it's like, we have bigger influence than everyone.
Yeah.
Just use it. We'll get 4 deals a month. That won't be hard.
Yeah.
So anyways, I like where we're at now, where Javi is overseeing all of it. Monty is focused on the back end plus the flips. And then Michael's just focused on being with those guys day to day. It's more of like a sales leader.
Yeah.
He's not responsible for the revenue. It doesn't fall on him. He's responsible for his performance. And then also just being with them every day, motivating them, all that.
Yeah.
But Javi is responsible for making sure we hit that 300K.
Yeah. So it's funny because we know each other, you're just going into like these people's names.
Yeah.
But like if someone's trying to build a company, when they're looking for a leader for that company, like specifically what kind of person are you looking for? You know what I'm saying? Because you went into Monty and Michael and these people they don't know who those people are. So like hypothetically, what kind of person are you looking for?
Well, the bigger question becomes, who are you first?
Yeah.
Because you're going to play a huge role in your company, right? Like I looked at it from the perspective of I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
I don't have a role at Home Run Offer. Like there's literally nothing for me to do.
Yeah.
Like I don't look at deals. I don't network. I don't dispo. I don't buy the flips.
So if someone wants to do what you're doing.
Well, that's down the road.
Yeah.
You just don't get there. You start doing what I did.
Yeah.
So I knew, for me, I was really good at finding deals and sales.
Yeah.
So I built all the relationships. I would get all the deals. I would go close deals on appointments with sellers.
Yeah.
And so if you're a naturally gifted salesperson, you should never get out of that for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't get out of it till I had done hundreds of deals. People try to get out of after a couple.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that if you're naturally gifted at sales, you need to lead in that way. That's number one. If you're not, you need to find a guy like me or you who can basically be your number two. who's naturally gifted at sales and who can do that. Okay. Somebody has to be a sales beast.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it.
Yeah. So for my business, you think, because I don't want to do,
If you want to be me, you need somebody besides Justin.
Yeah. So a salesperson.
A sales leader.
A sales
leader. You need salespeople who
Yeah.
are going to actually close deals.
Yeah. And
a sales leader who is like, their responsibility is the company's overall revenue as well.
Yeah. So if someone's going out looking to hire a sales leader,
yep.
What does that look like?
Ideally in this industry anyways, for you, so I'll only speak to you since I know your business, and since you're already established, you really need somebody who's already been in this industry.
Yeah.
You need somebody who's already wholesaled at a high level, direct to seller.
Yeah. Who
knows how to do phone sales, who's been in it for years. That's what I would be looking for.
Yeah.
Experience above and then, then the basic things after that are, well, do they fit the culture? Do they have our core values?
Yeah.
Do they have all these things?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I kind of, for me, I already knew that, but what about another thing that I've thought about too? Well, let's stick to leadership. I don't want to bounce around. So what do you think? What's the difference between like a good sales leader and like a sales manager? Because Javi, I would say, is a sales leader, and then Michael, or I don't know, I'll let you answer.
Yeah, I was going to say the opposite. So I think Javi is the sales manager, meaning that he is just making sure people hit their metrics. He's going through the CRM. He's checking like all these detailed things that matter. Right? Like, why are leads getting lost? Why are these people not being followed up with?
Yeah.
How did you get so many leads and not close anybody? Asking the questions. So I think a good sales manager is a blend of being data-driven and detail-driven, but also being good enough at sales, which Javi is a rare blend of both.
Yeah.
A guy like me will not do any of that.
Yeah.
I ain't going to go through the CRM and figure out what the heck is going on.
Yeah. So I would consider you a sales leader where you're like inspiring. You will take down the deal.
Yeah.
You'll hop in there and get dirty.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And so that's what I have Michael doing. Yeah. So if he can hop on a deal and help them close it, he'll go. So like the sales leader to me is the guy who's actively around the team.
Yeah.
Hyping them up. That's what I said. I told them this last week. I go, guys, every hour, I want you guys doing a stupid little power hour, okay?
Yeah.
I want 20 push-ups every hour.
Yeah.
And Michael, lead them on something. Make them do something else.
Yeah.
Give me 20 squats this hour. Give me just whatever. But somebody's got to do that every hour.
Up. Yeah.
Right? And then while he's doing that, Javi is looking at the data and the performance and the detail side of it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Anything else you think on leadership for a company?
I think specific numbers, because that's kind of what you were asking for too. So I'll tell you for my specific numbers, we have Monty as the COO, so the overall operation. He has to oversee everything.
Yeah.
Javi would be our sales manager at this point, even though he has other roles too with me. Michael would be like sales leader / top salesperson.
Yeah.
We have 3 other acquisitions right now.
Yeah.
So there's 4 total acquisitions. Everyone's over the phone.
Yeah.
We have 1 dispo right now, but hiring a second. So 1 will be for Vegas, 1 will be for nationwide.
Okay.
And I'm splitting both teams that way too. So 2 Vegas and 2 nationwide acquisitions, 1 Vegas dispo, 1 nationwide acquisitions.
Got it.
Because like I said before, our Vegas leads, they cost so much and we know they're so valuable compared to the nationwide stuff that I need people only focused on that.
Yeah. Okay. So next year, I didn't even know this. Next year, you're going to do Vegas and nationwide at the same time.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
2 separate teams.
Okay.
Then I have my MLS guy who I just hired.
Yeah.
To get those MLS deals.
In Vegas.
Yep. 1 TC, 1 project manager. That's the team that I think could get us to. Well, I take that back. I think that I'm going to end up hiring 2 more nationwide acquisitions as well.
Got it. Okay.
I think just because we have so many leads, it's not that I think we need it to get to the goals, but the lead's already there.
What do you think about, so we'll transition to picking markets, right? Because right now I'm just doing SoCal.
Yep.
And I'm debating adding Vegas and bringing in a person that's just Vegas?
I don't think you should do that.
You think I should just do SoCal?
I don't think you spend enough money for that to even be necessary.
Yeah. But my plan for next year is not to be heavy direct to seller. It's to be direct to agent and wholesaler in relationships.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So they would be coming in not like they're not going to be calling direct to seller leads here in Vegas.
Got it. So they're just doing agent outreach.
Agent outreach, wholesalers, MLS.
Yeah.
Free leads.
I still think that Cali is so massive. Why I don't think you need to be in Vegas.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I just think it's a waste of time. It makes now you have to have 2 different dispo.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's say someone's listening to this.
Yeah.
Right? Which I'm sure they are.
The only reason, by the way, the only reason you go nationwide is because it's so cheap to get leads.
Yeah.
Like if you had lead packs and everything else, that's why you do nationwide.
Yeah.
If you're willing to spend money, you should only be in one market.
Okay, so question is, let's say someone's listening to this.
Yeah.
And they're currently in any market, Kentucky, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, whatever, right?
Okay.
When should they start looking at adding a market or going nationwide?
Good question.
Thank you.
Well, every person's in a different spot. So, okay, if you're a newbie, you have no success, I would say go nationwide first with lead packs. And I'm biased, but like if you're going to go direct to seller, maximize how many leads you get that you actually can talk to.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't make sense to go get 10 Vegas leads
Okay.
for the month. Like you'll have nothing to do. Like getting 50 leads in a lead pack is way cheaper and way better.
Yeah.
And I also don't want people cold calling and texting. Freaking, just a nationwide lead pack is better. It just is. So if you're new, that's what I would do. Now, if you're established, meaning you're already at say multiple 6 figures, because if you only did 100,000, you ain't even close to getting a new market.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say, I don't know, you're doing a few 100,000 right now and you're local in your market, whatever it is. Well, you built some stuff. I would try to really double down in your market. You know, I don't know how you got there, right? So like, it's very different for everybody.
But why are you not doubling down on your own market then?
I am. I
But
spend all my
only-
ad dollars in my market.
But only your market.
Yeah.
Why are you going nationwide?
I'm in a totally different situation where I have to produce all of these leads anyways
Oh, okay.
for coaching.
Got it. If
So-
you didn't have coaching,
No, I would
you
be in
wouldn't-
Vegas.
Oh, okay, got it. That makes sense.
For me, who is specifically spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been spending at least $50K a month in Vegas the last like 5 years.
Yeah.
So I already have everything built out here in Vegas. I don't need to go get cheaper leads. For me, though, I have them based on having a lead generation company.
Yeah.
We get all these free organic leads and everything else already.
Yeah.
So to me, there's no cost to working them other than, you know, hiring people and just having them work them.
Yeah.
And then also, too, it helps us also train students on how to work nationwide. So if I was to guess, like, how I think our marketing would play out next year, if we got to 300K, my guess is, let's say, well, it depends, like, how many nationwide we get, but I think we could easily do at least 100K nationwide per month, and then Vegas could easily be 200K.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Spending 60K.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like, at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And Vegas could be more. I mean, we've made hundreds and hundreds of thousands spending 50K in Vegas.
Yeah.
You know, so like it just really depends what we're gonna do. And I set also, by the way, I'm setting my goal like I feel somewhat low
Yeah.
because I want to just make sure we hit it.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a lot higher.
That's a great transition to what I was going to ask you next.
Okay.
So,
Because I think if we spend 60K, we'll do better than 300K. Well, I think we'll do at least 300K in Vegas alone. And then the nationwide is essentially just gravy.
Yeah.
That's kind of how my mind is looking at it.
yeah. So, great transition, because I was going to ask you, if people are setting goals, is it better to set just like a freaking super high goal? Like, for example, I'm looking at, do you know fair trade? Do you know Fair Trade?
I've heard of it.
Yeah,
They're like a
it's
big
pretty much
wholesale
like
company?
New Western. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much like New Western.
Yeah.
So I was talking to one of the previous owners, and I shouldn't have even said who I was talking to. I was talking to someone there.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
and they did about $20 million last year.
Yep.
Right? And I'm like, okay, am I not running a $20 million wholesale operation because I keep getting stuck at this like $1 million number? So if someone's setting goals, should they go realistic? And again, sorry, newbies, this is not for a newbie. This is not a newbie episode, right? This is going to be an experienced to high level episode, right? So forget the newbie question.
Okay.
If someone's experienced, that they're already making hundreds of thousands, if not maybe millions already, a couple $1 million, is it better to start thinking like, how do I get to 20 million versus like, how do I grow 15% a year?
I've never thought about how do I grow 15%.
I know you haven't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I've never thought about that question.
But that's like the average, right? That would be what an average company grows at, that's scaled
Yeah.
already.
Well, for one, I mean, I've had years where I've had multiple X's of growth.
Yeah.
And then I had a year like this year where we went negative
Yeah.
growth, right? Because we changed so many things, pivoted so many things, whatever, right? So anyways, I don't kind of like look at it in that term. What I think about in that person's case, the person who's either at a few 100,000
Yeah.
or even a few million,
Yeah.
the first thing you got to ask yourself is like, okay, am I achieving my goals, or like, do I really want that $20 million company? Because I'll tell you this, when I kind of left my house flipping business 5 years ago to go do other things, I was completely fine if that's what it was. We were doing, man, I don't even remember what we did in 2020, like 3 or 4 million. I was like, I'm good. Like, if this makes me $1 million plus a year net and I don't do anything, that's enough money for me.
Yeah.
But, just because I can't sit around and do nothing, I created lots of other things. So I think like you got to first ask yourself the question of what is it that you actually want and why are you doing it? So like for me, I would never make a $20 million wholesale company. There's no added benefit to my life doing it. It's not worth the stress. It's not worth the headache. I mean, I already know what those guys got to do to get there.
Yeah.
They have to set up offices in different states, different thing.
Yeah.
There ain't no way I'm paying that cost.
Yeah.
Jesus tells us to count the cost when we become a Christian. I know the cost there. I'm paying it. I will not pay the cost to open up freaking 20 locations.
Yeah.
It ain't worth it. And the reason it's not worth it for me, because I know I could build a $20 million company in other ways that are way easier.
Yeah.
And way more profitable because their margins aren't very good in those companies. So anyways, that's why I wouldn't think about that. Now, here's a good book that people need to read who want to scale. It's called 10X is Easier Than 2X. Okay, so it's the same guy who wrote Who Not How and, Gap in the Gain, Dan Sullivan and Hardy. So basically, if you don't want to read it, the 1-minute version is it's easier to think about 10X than it is 2X. Weird, that's the title of the book.
Yeah.
But the reason is, okay, if you wanted to 2X your current business, all you would have to do is just work twice as hard.
Yeah.
So you would just be like, oh, well, I'll hire twice as many salespeople, I'll spend twice as much on marketing, and then boom, you 2X'd. But when you think about how do I 10X my business, you have to start a whole new business model. It doesn't mean it could mean you need to start a whole completely different industry because this business ain't going to get there. Couch flipping. Like if I thought about how I could have made $10 million flipping couches, it's like there's not really a path there. I have to be in a whole new thing, right? So if I have a $1 million wholesale business, let's just say, and you're doing it locally, which most $1 million wholesale businesses would be, and you said all of a sudden I want to do 10 million in my wholesale business. Well, now it's not just work 10 times as hard. You have to have a completely different strategy. And so if I was to start just spitballing ways to make 10 million wholesaling, top line I'm just talking, you could do what Fair Trade and New Western, these guys do. You open up shops in different markets. So you're like, look, I need 10 markets at $1 million. That's freaking a lot of work. But you could go down that path. Second option, hey, I'm just going to go super deep on my market. I'm going to spend way more. I'm going to start actually flipping. I'm going to start just like taking down more deals and then just reverse engineer the math. You're like, all right, I got to find a way to do 300 deals in my market at 30K. That gets me to 9 million, essentially. So that's another path. You add new exit strategies. Another path is, well, dang, dude, I'm going to start coaching people how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go and take on all the risk and all the headache of building a $10 million thing. If I'm this successful already, there might be people willing to pay me. Now, I wouldn't suggest that option. I already know what that option's like. 99.9% of real estate investors can't do education. They try and they fail.
Yeah.
So that's a totally different conversation. Another thing would be, I mean, really, those are the only paths. I mean, there's not really many other paths to get there. But the whole point of the thought process is think of every single path that could get you to that 10X goal. Then visualize, do you want to actually go through with that plan? And if the answer is yes, go for it. And then, you know, what will happen is you'll start this whole new plan and maybe you don't get to 10, but you get to 5.
Yeah.
And like, that's kind of the idea behind it. And that's even the idea behind 10X with Cardone. It's like, it's not that you're really ever going to hit your 10X goal, at least in the time frame that you're probably telling yourself, but it's that it forces you to think in a different way. And even if you come up short, it's way further than what you would have did thinking small.
Yeah. Because I was thinking if I wanted to build a new Western type of model, but I don't know. Then I called some people and I got feedback on like different things. And then I was like, I don't know if it's worth it. Like, because like I could be so profitable.
But you haven't even, okay, but here's the part with you haven't even built a good new Western model in one place. How are you going to build it in others?
Well, I'm not saying like doing it in multiple. I'm saying if I were to start, obviously I'll just do Southern California.
Yeah.
Start there, but try to get it to where it's a new Western. Like we have a legit office and there's a bunch of, and we're recruiting and we're training and all that crap. But yeah. But more specifically, the question was about setting goals specifically. Is it better to set a 10X goal, or is it better to be like, hey, how do I make 20% more next year?
Yeah, so I guess for me, I kind of like set 10X goals in my mind, but I'm also able to set the short-term goal for that goal.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, with my current goal that I just gave you, getting to 300K a month with just direct to seller consistently is very, very attainable. Should be actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
Now, I could have set a goal and said, let's get to $1 million a month. It's possible.
Yeah.
It would be very hard. It would take a lot of time and energy out of my end. We'd have to hire a lot of salespeople. We'd have to recruit a lot of people. But it's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
And maybe down the road, that will be the goal.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I just want to build it to what it is that I know that can happen this year. And then I'll decide once I hit that goal if I want to pursue the next goal.
Yeah. So how do you feel, I guess, like to
But to tell you, the model that I'm using can get there.
Yeah.
Because I know Vegas can at least produce probably, at least on the direct to seller side, because I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, we've had months where, we've consistently had over $300,000 plus months, in many years. But here's the thing, most of it was flipping. So this is a whole new model of going pure wholesale.
Yeah.
So like in 2020, when we did 3 to 4 million, I mean, that's over 300K a month.
Yeah.
But it was flips. So your margin's not as good wholesale. So you got to kind of call it 1.5 times the deals to get that same result in wholesale.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think that I can still do it. I'll reach a cap in Vegas, whatever that ends up being. And then I would just go all nationwide at that point.
Yeah. Okay. So before we transition to doing like other things besides real estate, do you think we're going to get like a Trump boost this year?
I think in people's minds, they're going to feel more optimistic. But I don't think that you'll see the result of people's actions next year.
What does that mean?
So everything takes time. So like with Trump coming in next year, it's not like all of a sudden the economy's good tomorrow, right? He can't do anything in a day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's starting to work on some stuff now, but it's going to take at least a year for like the cause and effect to happen. So, okay, let's just give a great example, right? COVID. So COVID ends up happening, and we knew there was going to be inflation. We just weren't sure how it was going to happen. So they print all this money in 2022 or 2020. Okay. They get us out of this recession that happened because they shut every business down. By the end of 2020, things were going along really quickly. 2021, we started to see something we'd never seen before. Prices and everything were accelerating faster than ever. This happened a year later after the initial thing.
Yeah.
And then that continued in 22. And then guess what? In 22, they double rates. We knew that was going to cause another recession. And so guess what? We start to see this recession hit late 23, early 24. People are now feeling it. You see all the layoffs. You see, all this stuff happening. So everything takes time to really take effect, especially in real estate.
Yeah.
Where things are slow.
But do you think Trump is actually going to help the economy?
Yeah. And I think that, there's just different parts of the economy. Like, so.
I think you got to push.
Oh, did I touch it?
Is it back on?
Oh. Ready? Yeah, so I think there's different parts of the economy. So when we think about it as real estate investors, it's funny, right? When we had all the people at the mastermind, they're like, but I did good.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, how narcissistic to think that.
You are the economy.
Yeah, you're the economy, dude. You had a great year. I'm like, you asked me how the economy is doing, not you. But that's how people think. They literally cannot distinguish themselves from everyone else in the world.
Yeah.
So I've made a living trying to not be narcissistic and think about everyone else.
Yeah.
And so when I think about everyone else right now, dude, it's bad. Bro, the cost of a mortgage, the cost of rent, the cost of food. Dude, I was at Del Taco yesterday, my favorite place in the world. And I didn't even think about this, but it dawned on me that they used to have this dollar menu as of a couple of years ago. The chicken taco was $1.09. This is the best.
Yeah.
The strawberry lemonade was $1.
Yeah.
Today, the chicken taco is $2.
Yeah.
The strawberry lemonade is $2.
Yeah.
Do you realize how that's 100% increase in just a couple of years?
Yeah.
How long was it $1 for before that?
Forever.
Decades.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at this and I'm like, how does a normal family, Mindy and I were talking about this. She orders all the groceries and I'm like, damn, how much are groceries today? And I'm looking at the price of eggs and all this stuff. It doesn't affect me. I'm not ordering less eggs.
Yeah.
But I think about normal people and I'm like, wow, I can't believe a dozen eggs cost whatever it costs today.
He still doesn't know.
I still don't even know, but it was crazy.
But it's high.
Bro, when I was in college, I was super price sensitive. I used to go to Costco, which I hate on now, but I would go to Costco back then because I was broke, and I would buy 60 eggs for $5.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Dude, 12 eggs is definitely more than $5.
Yeah.
I don't even know what 12 costs now. I think it's 10.
Let's Google how much eggs cost.
Dude, an egg used to be worth 10 cents. They're literally, ChatGPT will tell you, what's the average price?
It says Nevada, 607.
607.
Yeah.
For 12.
Yeah.
It's 50 cents an egg.
Yeah. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
I'm
That's
not
5X.
I'm not proud to say this, but I went to McDonald's yesterday.
Yeah.
And
McFlurries are a lot, dude.
Their spicy chicken that used to be $1 was $2.69.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And most families are eating all this food.
Yeah.
And their wages are not going up.
No.
People are still making $10 an hour. Good jobs pay $20, $30 an hour.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
So do you think Trump will be able to fix that?
I don't know. I think we're entering an unprecedented time where we've kind of reached this point that lots of books have talked about reaching, where it was an inevitable conclusion that in order to keep up with what we're doing, we have to just keep printing more money. And when that happens, the rich get richer, and you're seeing it. Elon Musk is he just passed like 400 billion or something.
Yeah.
He'll be a trillionaire, they say, in like 3 years.
Dang.
And you think about that, you're like, how the heck is this dude a trillionaire in so short of a time? To go from worth 100 billion to a trillion
Yeah.
in, let's just say, like 7 years, that's like what it will be.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And, I just think about when he does that, he'll be worth that much. But still, the normal everyday person, their life ain't changing that much.
Yeah.
They're still going to make $5,000 a week or $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month. Like, that's not changing.
Yeah.
And in fact, AI is taking more jobs than ever. It's making it cheaper.
Yeah.
But here's the flip side. There's a book called The Price of Tomorrow. I love this book because it's predicted everything that's happened in the last 5 years. It was written by a guy, Jeff Booth, who I've gotten to talk to. I want to get him on the pod. But everything he said like 5 years ago has come true. And it just kind of like forces my opinion. But basically, the premise is technology causes deflation. So when you think about it, this phone, dude, 30 years ago, a normal cell phone was like $5,000 for a brick.
That's crazy.
That could only make calls. Now you have the most powerful device in human history. Anyone can go get one for like $300.
Yeah.
That's insane. If somebody told you 10 years ago that there would be a car, you just bought a Tesla, right? You love it. If somebody told you 10 years ago there would be a car that didn't require gas, that could drive itself, that was faster than sports cars,
Yeah.
that had more technology than everything, and you could go get one for like 25 grand,
Yeah.
you'd be like, what?
Yeah. I wouldn't believe him.
But that's the reality of a Tesla today.
Yeah.
If somebody told you that, there's this thing called YouTube, 20 years ago, where it would replace cable and people could just watch content all day, every day, the best content, and it costs nothing, you wouldn't believe it. So, and I could give example after example. So technology actually causes supreme benefit to the customer. So like even when I think about, okay, if AI replaces a job in my company, it's not like all of a sudden I just pocket all the money. What happens is the savings get redistributed to the consumer. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
So what does all this mean? I personally don't think that normal everyday people's wages and everything's going to go up. But I do think over time, technology will cause their cost of living to go down if the government doesn't meddle. That's a big if. Because if the government keeps printing money, then prices have to go up. But if they were to never print money, actually prices would go down.
Yeah. Do you think that Elon Musk is actually going to be the president?
I don't think he's eligible.
No, well, there's like this like conspiracy theory that Elon is actually going to be the president, and it's not true.
Oh, like behind the scenes?
Yeah. Do you think that Elon Musk, this is a real question, will actually have so much power that he will make significant changes, more than a politician, because he's going to come at it from like a brand new perspective?
Yeah, because he's already proven it without it. He had no political influence, and he has already taken over NASA with
crazy.
SpaceX.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He controls all of going to space.
Yeah.
He's going to colonize Mars without anyone's permission. He is going to put chips in your brain.
Yeah.
He's developing all the self-driving cars
Yeah.
that are going to, like, he's iRobot, dude. Like,
Yeah.
this dude is going to control everything without government influence. What's he going to do now that he has government influence?
Yeah. That's true. I didn't think about that.
He's already proven it.
Yeah. So, is there something specific that you think he can do?
I think, once again, if you let deflation naturally occur, it's actually good for everybody. I think technology is going to allow people to have an abundant life with very little money. Like, I think that in time, like real estate's been the one thing that technology's been slow to catch up to.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's the biggest expense.
It's everyone's biggest expense, and it's so easy to fix.
How do you fix it?
The technology. So 3D printing homes will be a thing. It's already a thing. It's just not at scale yet.
Yeah.
In about, I would guess, honestly, in less than 20 years, they'll be able to 3D print homes in a day or a week and produce homes at scale, outskirts of cities. and you'll be able to go live in a sick 3D printed home that's just like a Tesla, more technology, more energy efficient, built literally in a day, and you'll be able to live in it for so cheap because it's going to cost nothing to build. And there will be, with competition, right? If I have a 3D printer and I have this company and this machine, and I know it costs me, I don't know, 30 grand to print a home, okay? And I know that homes are worth, I don't know, at that point, $1 million. Sure, I could charge $1 million initially, but what naturally happens is competition comes into play and sees how much margin there is, and you start undercutting each other. And eventually it gets to the point where you find the equilibrium. This is economics. And so the equilibrium will end up being whoever's willing to do it the cheapest. And so, you know, everyone comes in, competition comes in, all of a sudden houses are 50K.
Yeah.
And that's what will happen with technology.
But do you think, well, this is what I think. I think that the only way to fix the housing problem is going to be through lending. I think like if they could figure out how to make way longer loans or fix the payment structure, that's
not fixing it. That's putting a Band-Aid on the current situation. So that's how you're going to fix it today.
Yeah.
But it's not a fix. It's just a Band-Aid.
But look at places like Southern California, for example, Los Angeles. You can't go out and build these like 3D homes. There's like a bunch of cities where that's like Vegas, there's land.
There's land everywhere.
Yeah, so I think I don't think lending is a temporary solution because I think that people's mortgages have to go down. For all the people that have houses that are built, for all the real estate that's already built, their mortgages can't stay going up or they're not going to be able to afford it.
Yeah. But once again, I look at everything from competition, supply and demand. So if real estate in California starts to cost a lot, people will just naturally leave. There's plenty of cheap places to live in the U.S. Nobody's forcing anyone to live in California.
But they can't just leave. And if you look at like, okay, you were looking at the price of eggs, right?
Yeah.
The price of a mortgage for a normal family almost anywhere in America is super high. Like extremely high.
You could go live in Detroit.
You could, but you won't, right?
You could go live in another country and do, business online, right?
Yeah, but there's not going to be a mass exodus of like America.
No, but my point is there's choices. Nobody's forcing anyone to live in California. Yeah. Right? People who complain about living in California and can't afford it need to move.
Yeah. But, okay, this is where I'm going to push back again. I was looking at houses here recently because I'm like, maybe I want to buy a new house. And then I started looking at houses in Eastville where I moved from.
Yeah.
They're close in price now.
Yeah.
They're literally like almost, it's not even like a difference at all anymore.
Yeah.
They're the same price. So California, take out of it, Las Vegas, Austin, Dallas, like all these markets are
But
too
you're
expensive.
talking about the best cities in the country.
Yeah, the most populated cities.
Right.
People are going to stay. They're not going to move. People aren't going to leave their family to move to Detroit to save on a mortgage. So the lending
but there's people who aren't going to have a choice, is my point.
There's people that are not going to have a choice, but to make a significant difference in housing, I think they're going to have to do something to mortgages.
Yeah, they're already talking about doing 40-year mortgages and stuff. But even when you look at the 40-year mortgage, it doesn't change it really much.
Yeah.
Like the payment's not really that different.
Or maybe a 50-year mortgage or something. Like something's going to have to change with lending because I just don't see.
But my point is that's still just like the temporary fix.
That is a temporary fix.
Right? And 10 years from now, you're going to be like, we need a 100-year mortgage. No, I'm dead serious.
Or the government subsidizing mortgages or something like that's going to have to happen.
They already do that.
Yeah.
With first-time home buyers, they do it in opportunity zones. That's existed for a long time.
Yeah. But doing it more.
The way you solve the problem long-term and for good is technology.
Yeah.
And it's already here. It's just not at scale. Because even in California, right? I mean, we drive from here to Vegas or Vegas to Cali. Mm-hmm. You know how much vacant land there is? It's worth zero?
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
And even like on the outskirts of, dude, okay, just think about how Cali and everything first started, right? I don't know the history of it, but I would assume LA was like a very, small place.
Yeah.
And then it kept expanding outward. Mm-hmm. And then there's a reason why the IE and everything is the cheaper area because this is how the world works. Mm-hmm. There's towns and it keeps expanding out.
Yeah.
Vegas just seems more doable because you can see there's nothing else around it. It's like, it's just one pocket, but that's how California was at one point. Mm-hmm. Everyone came to Cali for the gold rush. and then
Yeah.
they start expanding. So there's still plenty of room in Cali to expand.
Yeah.
And
Even New York. But again, it's not just Cali.
New York is super rural. There's so much land in New York. It's crazy. I lived in New Jersey. Like, I know how much raw land is available that's unused. And, you know, kind of my point is, if you go get a house for $50K, it solves all the problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I want to transition to new opportunities, right? Because I think a lot of people listening to this, they're in real estate, obviously, but then they get tempted with like social media and home service businesses and, you know, just other crap. So when do you think someone in real estate should be open to other things?
Well, you want to hear a theory I have that's new about social media?
Yeah.
I actually think that most people shouldn't get into it now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to tell you some interesting stuff, right? So I was doing social media hard earlier this year, right? I was doing 3 postings on YouTube a week. I was doing 2 postings on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook a week.
A
It was
week?
a day.
Yeah, I was like, you're not posting that
Yeah,
hard.
yeah. No. That wasn't hard. I was paying about $6,000 to do that, right?
Yep.
From social media, I was getting max $1,200 a month
In ad revenue.
in ad revenue,
Yeah.
in total revenue.
Yep.
I quit doing 3. I'm doing 1 podcast and like 2 shorts a week, and I make $600 a month.
Sick.
Yeah, so I cut down my expenses by like $4,000.
Yep.
And my income only dropped by $600. So I believe that's why you're saying like it's unless you're selling coaching, social media doesn't make sense, in my opinion.
So this goes back to what I said in my annual letter of just because something used to work before does not mean that you have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So when I was telling everybody to get on social media back in 2020,
Yeah.
I was freaking right. Like, everyone should have did it. Because
Yeah.
guess what, dude? It was the best opportunity, what I believed, of like a long time.
Yeah.
And I've reaped the rewards. It's made me tens of millions
Yeah.
from freaking doing that.
Yeah.
And now that I'm an established brand, it's still worthwhile for me to do. To break through today and to break through in the future
Yeah.
is going to be so ridiculously hard for somebody.
Damn.
It wasn't the case 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Everybody's just on their TikTok and chilling, and, you know, there was no professional editors. Nobody really, it hadn't been professionalized yet.
Yeah.
Today, it is professionalized. If you're trying to compete, let's just say, since people here in the entrepreneur space, look how good the content is you're competing with.
Yeah.
And everybody only has so much time. So they're going to go watch you or me or Hermosi or Cody or
Yeah.
Grant or Patrick. Like, my theory is it's just one of those things, again, where the rich get richer, and that's it. And it becomes this thing kind of like, I honestly think it's like Hollywood 2.0, where it's like, yeah, the barrier to entry just got high again.
Yeah.
It used to be where anyone could do it, but now because everyone knows its worth and its value, people are investing significant amounts of money. You know, Mr. Beast is spending millions on one video.
Yeah.
So you think about how he values it. You think about what Logan Paul and these guys who make millions from all the things that social media brings them. They'll spend a ton on videos.
Yeah.
PBD's the same way. Like, Hormozi's spending hundreds of thousands a month on his stuff.
Yeah.
So you're competing with those people. And yeah, that's why I just say it's like, that wasn't the case 5 years ago. None of them were doing that.
Yeah.
And now they are. So competition's increasing. It's harder to stand out. And it's about to get even harder because AI is going to double the content. So what I see happening is now guys like Mr. Beast and whoever else, like, they're going to be international. So now it's about to become a global game where, okay, yeah, in the U.S., you have your U.S. people. And then in Mexico, there's Mexico influencers. And in Ireland, there's Ireland influencers, right? But here we go. Like, in the world where now they can go dub, let's say, my content in
Spanish.
all the languages. like Facebook has already said this, they're going to already push it in other languages for you, AI dubbed.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, if, you know, the Mexicans like my content, now all the Mexican influencers have to compete with me.
Yeah.
And I already know how this game plays out because this is literally what happens in pro baseball. Because I went from, you know, you play in high school and all you compete against is your local people in high school.
Hell yeah.
And then, and you're the best. You just think you're so good, right? And then
Dominicans show up.
yeah, dude. So then I play in college and I'm like, dude, everyone's the best from their high school. This is, man, everyone's pretty good.
Yeah.
So then you got to like rise to the next level. Then you get drafted and I'm like, where do all these Dominicans who freaking been hitting rocks and sticks their whole life with nothing?
Yeah.
They're coming in like they don't care about nothing. Then you see these guys like Shohei Ohtani coming from Japan.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
These are the best people from the world that I
Yeah.
now have to compete with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what happened with social media.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's going to keep getting harder and harder. The cream will keep. So, but here's the thing: if you're the best, your rewards are so massive.
Yeah.
It's insane.
But you have to be the best.
But you have to be the best, and that's
Yeah.
why Juan Soto just signed for $750 million in baseball. That's why Shohei got $700 million. That's why Messi gets as much money as he gets. That's why LeBron's a billionaire.
Yeah.
Because when you're the best, your rewards start to get even crazier.
Yeah. Do you think you're the best?
No. But I think I'm good enough to like still get some rewards.
Yeah.
I did enough
Yeah.
to be in the big leagues. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
I'm a Hall of Famer by any means yet.
But for everyone still listening to this, right? It goes back to the analogy that I talked about earlier where you saw social media was good. So you're like, I am
putting all my
going all
chips
in.
in.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then you reaped the reward
Yep.
versus someone who was like, oh, I'm kind of doing it. I'm kind of not. Because now you've built up this big thing
Yep.
that you don't have to be the best. I still think you are one of the best.
Thank you.
But yeah, like that's the reality of the situation. So do you think people should pursue social media in 2025?
Well, the reason I bring this up is because you said, well, people are like, I'm thinking about doing flipping. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
doing content. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about this. I think you should think about being the best at one thing. You can't be the best at multiple things.
Yeah.
So the big problem that people have is they have a little success and they think they're already the best.
Yeah.
Newsflash, you ain't.
Yeah.
You still suck. That's what I tell people. I'm like, I had a guy tell me yesterday, he was just, sometimes I respond to my DMs when I get funny messages.
Yeah.
And this guy's like, you know, I don't think I should have to pay for coaching. Or he's like, I can't afford the $1,500 to come to the event, but I already know real estate. I don't think I should have to pay.
Yeah.
I go, bro, you can't afford the $1,500 event. You somehow know real estate.
Yeah.
That is the dumbest question I've ever heard or like statement I've ever seen. And I was like, dude, that's like me saying I play pickup basketball. I could totally play in the NBA. That's literally your mentality.
Yeah. But that's not the people listening to this podcast. They're
That's
smart.
not-
You guys are smart. Subscribe.
But I would say, no, you have to go all in at one thing.
Yeah. So don't do real estate. I mean, I'm sorry. Don't do social media. Forget all the other businesses because I want to get to that still. But
For
social
sure,
media
definitely don't do multiple businesses.
Yeah. But for social media, should people do social media in 2025?
It depends on your intent. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to put like a couple hours a week into this. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be this crazy influencer.
Yeah.
I just want to have some stuff out there. That way, I know I ain't going to make like ad revenue or
Yeah, yeah.
sponsors or anything, but I will get some deals. I'll get some investors. I think social media is a good thing for that. I don't think you should have no presence at all.
Yeah.
People, if you know, you will get more deals when, even if you don't have great content, but they at least see some stuff out there. Like, oh, okay, like that Brian guy actually does deals. Like, cool.
Yeah.
So I think that it's beneficial from like a business card perspective to just have content on there.
Yeah.
Now, if you're trying to be an influencer, kind of like what you were saying, like
Yeah.
truly build a brand,
Yeah.
no, you're probably not going to make it.
Okay. Well,
And you know what's funny? I've never brought this up, but because I don't like talking negative and whatever. But it's funny because I see a lot of real estate guys who always hate on gurus.
yeah.
And all of them are trying to build a brand and be a guru.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I just like look at the irony and I'm like, I don't know if they realize that their inward feelings are coming out in their content, and it's so obvious to see of like the frustration of like, these freaking gurus do this and that, and this guy's doing this, and this guy, and I see it because like a lot of them hate me or whatever, and it's just like, but you're doing the same thing just at 1/100th of the level.
Yeah, I know.
And you know, you're the guru advocate.
Yeah, there's a guy that makes videos about you that I watch sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what he does, but he has a little business, and he pitches his business while he's making videos about you. And I'm like, this guy's so funny. Or even I think about Meet Kevin. I felt like Meet Kevin, and I love Meet Kevin, obviously. He spoke at WealthCon. I love Meet Kevin. But it's funny. I asked him on the podcast when I had him on mine. I was like, do you ever kind of feel weird that you used to talk about Grant Cardone, like having this fund and having this plane and having all this stuff, and like that's kind of what you do now, and you sell a lot of education.
Yeah,
that used to be like
what
you went after him for. But he said he didn't feel like he was doing the same.
Once again, it goes back to most people have a lack of self-awareness. So that's why I always say, like, I'm super self-aware that I'm out here slanging and pitching.
Yeah,
I don't give a crap. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, just own and be self-aware of what you do.
Yeah.
But most people aren't. So that's why I always crack up when I see the guru. Like, they're smaller kind of guys who make videos about gurus, selling their own stuff. And it's just like, do you just see you don't see the irony.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they don't. They don't see it.
No.
But what about, okay, so let's transition to other businesses. When should a real estate person, because this is what happens to most real estate people.
Oh, by the way, let me just add, this made me think about it because we were both there. When I got to interview Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was a Dave Ramsey hater.
Yeah.
And then I realized how dumb I was. I'm like, this guy, now I have just so much respect for him.
Yeah.
And you were there for the interview.
Yeah.
And it's like, this guy he was awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I may not like believe necessarily like his ideas are 100% my idea. They're definitely not.
Yeah.
But like to try and get clout from hating on Dave Ramsey, like lots of people have done it, including myself, which is now why I don't think I've made like a negative video in years.
Yeah.
Like in my early days of YouTube.
Yeah.
I was doing that.
But that was popular back then too also. You can make like a hating on,
Yeah,
exposing.
but people still do that every day.
Yeah. Yeah. But people also never hate down. They always hate up.
Oh,
so
100%.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a reality. But what about people listening to this that are like, I make $100,000 or a couple $100,000, a couple $1 million in real estate. I'll never be able to sell it. It's a cash business. I should get into a home servicing business or some sort of like reoccurring service-based business so then I could buy it and then sell it like Alex and Layla Hermosi. When should they actually consider that?
Once they built an actual business first.
But let's say they're listening to this and they have a business.
Like how big?
Let's say 500K and up.
It's not big enough.
When is it big enough then?
Until you get to the point, well, that's a good question. That's subjective.
There we go.
But my subjective opinion is it's not big enough.
Yeah.
Because if you're starting to look at other things to do, this is the biggest mistake I've made, is that I got really good at building $1 million, $2 million businesses.
Yeah.
And so I could literally build them at will.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you gave me an idea right now,
Yeah.
what are the chances I could go turn it?
I'll say like 100%.
Yeah.
For reals, honestly.
Yeah, like any
I've
idea.
seen it already. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could turn anything. You just give me like that'd actually be a good YouTube series.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating for this, but that'd be a good YouTube series of being like, freaking give me an idea of a hat.
Yeah.
We're gonna go build a 7-figure business in less than 6 months.
Yeah.
It's totally doable. But that being said, it's really hard to build an 8-figure business.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, because I've never done it, to build a 9-figure business. Right? But you will make more money focusing on one business and figuring out how to take the $1 million business to 10 versus saying, oh, I got the $1 million, let me build another $1 million and another $1 million, and then managing 3 different businesses that do $1 to $2 million.
Yeah.
Like I already know, I've been down that road.
Yeah.
Like it's way easier to go deep on one and go from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, like, if they're at 500K, whatever, if they're over 10 million, then I'd be like, all right, you should probably try to go to 100.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask you a really deep question. Do you think you're going to have to get out of education in order to build like a 8 or 9 figure company?
Well, it depends what you define as what, I mean, I've already built 8-figure companies.
Yeah.
So it depends.
But like, I would say like a
Exitable?
8 to 9 figure company
So,
in reoccurring set revenue. You know what I'm saying? Not
Yeah.
info, like just product.
yeah. So I think with, okay, so now that was the first question I was asking you. Are you talking about revenue or are you talking about exit? Because exit value, you don't need to, make 9 figures in revenue,
Yeah.
right? And then that depends on the industry, the type of revenue.
Talking about
Anyways.
exit value. So
Okay,
not
so
revenue.
exit value.
Yeah.
All right. I believe with what wealthy investor is now. Okay, so I have 2 other beliefs that I think are going to play out here. One belief is that personal brands are actually going to be, because right now, okay, so up to this point, having a face so attached to a brand was always seen as a negative thing.
Yeah.
You had to separate the face. I actually think that it's going to be a neutral thing and maybe one day a positive thing.
Yeah.
Because just every brand going forward is going to have to be like a face attached to it. Because like I even look at Tesla, Elon is attached to Tesla heavily. Yeah. If Elon were to step down today, Tesla's stock would go down so much.
Yeah.
All of his business's stocks would plummet. So they're still worth,
Yeah.
However many trillions, even with a heavy personal brand.
Yeah.
Mr. Beast and Feastables and all these things are worth a ton. Logan Paul, once again, with Prime.
Yeah. But you're in the info space, so you might be biased because you're picking the one out of a million businesses.
No. I mean, okay, info, you mentioned Hormozy before. Gym Launch is just all info. That's all it was.
Before he was famous?
I mean, he was still attached to the brand.
Yeah,
it was an info business with him on every ad, doing everything.
Yeah, but again, I'm talking. You're talking about the smallest percentage. If you take dentists, no one goes to a dentist because of.
But how many businesses have sold for 50 to 100 million? There's that's everything's small.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like 10 to a million, or I would say $10 million to sell a business for $10 million or $100 million. Do you think you're gonna have to give up education? And then I'm gonna ask more questions. But yeah.
So here's my theory.
Okay.
Let's just say the $100 million valuation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the way wealthy investors getting built now, I don't know that it could be worth $100. Maybe it could, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it can absolutely be worth tens of millions. And if someone were to look at it today, maybe they would already think it's that.
Yeah.
Because the way we're doing it now is so different than typical education before.
Yeah.
Because now today, I would say it's not even really about the info, it's about the services.
Yeah.
So now today, instead of like it being 10K, 25K things like normal education companies with no recurring revenue, it's once, you pay, you learn for a year, most people are out.
Yeah.
Today, everything is now recurring on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
And everyone gets their softwares, their CRM, their deal finding software. They get leads every month. They get one-on-one coaching help. They get all these things. So now I look at it more like a platform than anything.
Okay.
And then plus we have lending. So now they'll be able to fund deals too. So if you look at, a good example, Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets just resold again.
Yeah.
9 figures.
Yeah.
Bigger Pockets is just a recurring revenue real estate platform with faces and brands too. I mean, they have podcasts, they have those things, but their most of their value is derived from the recurring revenue of membership.
Yeah.
So they got like their, $20, $30 a month thing. Then they also make money selling leads. Okay. So that's really their main value is those 2 components. It's not even really the podcast and the forums and the education. That's just the marketing to get people to use the recurring revenue and to generate leads. That's how they make money.
Yeah, but then I'm going to disagree with you and push back and correct you.
Okay.
Bigger Pockets doesn't have like really guru attached to it. It would have been Brandon Turner, but if it's way bigger than just a person.
I agree. It's not like one person, but I'm just saying in terms of how they're evaluated, they have marketing with the podcast. They have different faces.
Yeah.
They make their money not from that. That's just the marketing.
Yeah.
To get people to spend money on the monthly recurring and leads.
Yeah.
That's basically how the business works.
Yeah.
So if I look at what we're building, we're spending money on marketing, podcasts, different things. I would say the education, instead of being the product, is now the marketing and the tool to get people to keep using the service.
Yeah.
And it's not like people will stop paying for education.
Yeah.
Right? But they can't stop paying for leads. They're always going to need a CRM. They're always going to need software. They're always going to need lending.
Yeah.
If they're running a real estate business, those are never going to go away.
Yeah.
So I think with how we're building it now, there's a good chance that it could be worth a ton, because let's just say, like, at a small level, it's not. But let's say it got to
$50 million.
What if it got to $30 million a year in recurring revenue, and let's say the net was 40%?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's $12 million, or no, that'd be more. No, 12. Yeah. That'd be $12 million a year in recurring revenue. And it's not info at that point.
Yeah.
They're paying for services, leads. They're getting loans.
Yeah.
It's a platform.
Yeah.
It's still tied, to me. But at the end of the day, like, as time goes on, right, somebody could buy, say, half of it. I mean, that's what happened with Bigger Pockets, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what happened with Tommy Mello and Garage Doors, because it's so tied to Tommy. He still sold for $600 million. And he still owns half. And now he's about to exit again for over $1 billion. That's what happened with Alex, too. They sold like 60% of Gym Launch, or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
He still had to retain ownership. He still had to show up to events and do different things. So I would imagine that that's what could happen. And then at that point, you just look at, okay, now that it's recurring revenue, they're going to look at churn. They're going to look at all these other factors. But, what kind of multiple would you get on, say, $12 million net EBITDA of recurring revenue?
Yeah. So pretty much the answer is no. You don't think you're going to have to leave or stop education to build this huge exit?
I think if I build it the right way, where it's not info and it is services that everyone's going to need regardless, then no.
Okay, got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Because there's technology now with softwares. There's lead generation. This is starting to become no different than Bigger Pockets. Like, you have leads, you have recurring revenues. They have different softwares too, I think.
Yeah.
You have media.
Yeah.
You have.
Yeah. But who do you have? Because I actually started watching Alex Hermosi again.
Yeah.
So I know I'm motivated, because I just took a break from him for like last year. But if you look at Alex,
feeling motivated.
Yeah, I'm feeling motivated again. I'm watching Alex again. So if you look at Alex and Layla, none of you don't know what businesses they own. All their businesses are not tied to their personal brand. They're just service-based businesses that they scale and sell, right? You, in your mind, you're going to
school's not.
School's not, but everything else, no one knows until school came, right? So in your mind, you're going to kind of do the opposite of them, where you're going to attach your brand to a service-based business and then sell it.
Okay, so like number one, they haven't sold anything else yet that anyone knows of. And I'm pretty sure if they did, they would have made an announcement about it.
Yeah, but they are adding businesses to their portfolio that's like growing.
I get it, but I'm just saying, like, it's still like we don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm not even going to speculate, like, who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, but odds are, just like any kind of venture capital, most of them will not work out. But you only need a couple to work out for a big exit.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure they're operating under that thesis as well.
Yeah.
Now, clearly, for him to take such a big bet on school and attach all of his brand and everything else to it, he's making a big bet, and he's obviously planning to exit too, being the face.
Yeah.
He's clearly the face. So I don't think there's any real differentiation between what school's doing and what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
And school, I love school. We're on school, so I'm not like hating or anything.
Yeah.
But school has lots of competitors too.
Yeah.
You know, Go High Level has its own version of school. You know, people still do Facebook groups. Like there's other copycats. You know, there's what's the other one? Circle.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Square or something like
Triangle.
Yeah.
But I forgot what the other one was that a lot of people. Oh, Kajabi.
Yeah.
Teachable. Like you know, so there's lots of different variations of it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate that. So I love school, but it's like my argument would be for the same thing. If somehow he thinks, or you think that you know he's going to exit that for hundreds of millions, it's still the same problem of it's attached to his brand.
Yeah.
So he therefore must not think that that's that big of a deal anymore.
Okay. What about, but to look at service-based business opposed to real estate, do you think that it's better to look at something that is, at what point does someone need to be like, hey, look, being a realtor or being a wholesaler, you know, I'm gonna make $1 million to $2 million, maybe max $5 million, absolute max. You're at the top 0.1% of real estate people.
So, I mean, like so we built, you know, I founded a tax firm and we sold it.
Yeah.
And built it to multiple millions. So I kind of like know the ins and outs of that too.
Yeah.
It's a service business. It's recurring revenue.
Yeah.
And it did well.
Yeah.
So I would just say it's way harder to build like from the ground up, but once it's built, it gets easier.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what path do you choose? Like flipping and wholesaling is very easy in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it has no, I would say, it's not like it ever gets easier. It's just always what it is.
Yeah.
Versus like, you know, for example, right? With Wealthy Investor, when we switched everything to recurring, like we barely even do annuals anymore. It's been now, this is month 4. You know, the recurring, I can now just see it each month, like stacking and stacking and stacking. And I'm like, oh, this is why people really like this model. Because I'm still spending the same amount in ads.
Yeah.
Yet the revenue just keeps climbing. So it's harder to build up front initially, but it's, you know, I would say less risky as time goes on, which is why people will pay for more.
Yeah.
But it's actually, I mean, the problem with service-based businesses is different than flipping and wholesaling and even info. I actually think that education and flipping are very similar business models.
They are. Yeah.
You know, it's like
cash. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're one-time big hits.
Yeah.
And then like you got to go do it again.
Yeah.
Right? And they don't require much labor.
Yeah.
Service-based requires a ton of labor. And it's just like, what problem do you want?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to manage a bunch of people and deal with labor? Or do you not? And, you know, you now manage dealing with marketing and sales.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess it just depends on the person. Because it was like, when should a real estate person start to be like, hey, look, at some point I can't keep wholesaling. I'm going to have to get into a service-based business or something like that if I want like a big exit or to get out of this like sale game.
Well, real estate people have big exits. It's called rental properties.
Okay.
So you need to start thinking about a rental property as a big exit.
Okay.
So, you know, I recently exited a bunch of my rentals and I made millions.
Yeah.
They were rentals I only had for a few years. I mean, if you could buy a business right now that was going to go make you, say, $3 million in 3 years, most people listening would be like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, it's called rentals.
Okay.
Those are the businesses.
Yeah.
That's the same way these guys who like don't make a bunch of money early on to build foundation, everything else, look at it.
Yeah.
That's the same way new build, ground up to construction, funds. It's all 5-year play. It's just as flippers and education, we're accustomed to instant paydays.
Yeah.
So you do get it in real estate. Like I was doing the math for everybody upstairs, you were there when I was doing the lunch mastermind. And I was actually astonished at the numbers because if you were to buy one rental property every year for the next 20 years, okay, let's just say it's $500,000 here in Vegas. We would guess in 20 years that property values are at least going to triple, at least, probably more.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you had 20 properties at, you know, that's $500K, that's $10 million worth of properties. Now, granted, you'll have inflation and other stuff, but let's just say for easy numbers, that's the case. You have $10 million worth of your cost basis into these properties. And if they triple, that's $30 million. And then guess what? 20 years from now, 30 years from now, they're also paid off in cash. You have a $30 million business that you could sell if you want. You could just hold on and just reap the cash flow. So this idea that you somehow need to be in another industry to get the big exit just isn't true with real estate.
That's going to be a great reel. Like the beginning of that, I was like, oh, I could see this being a good reel. But
you're such an influencer.
I was like, I should ask you, how do you make $10 million as a real estate investor? And then they're going to cut that and put that.
But let me just say the reason that, like that's your 20, 30 year exit, right?
Yeah.
You could literally, that's just one per year, or somehow you go buy 20 this year and you never bought any again.
Yeah.
You just have to hold it.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. And, you know, that's not even counting all the cash flow you would eventually get as it gets paid off, as rents increase, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because you ain't making any cash flow today.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of real estate people really are attracted to other businesses because we live in an industry that's feast or famine.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have all this money out. I'm waiting 6 months to sell this house. You know, everything takes forever to get paid. We're always in cash crunches because freaking money's going out every month. And then, boom, a house sells. And, dude, praise Jesus.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel this was great. I didn't do it again.
Yeah. I'll buy another.
Yeah.
I'll go broke again. So I get why they do it. And I'll say, too, I've been grateful like to be in other businesses where, you know, you get recurring revenue. You don't have cash conversion cycles of even 30 days, you know. Like you can go make money today.
Yeah.
So I get the desire to do it. But I'll just say, I think real estate's the easiest business to get into, period. It really is.
Yeah. Well, it is, yeah.
There's no other business that anyone can get into and go flip and make 50K.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't, you know, without a degree, without getting an office, without getting employees. Like, you by yourself right now could go find a deal that makes 50K. Yeah. That doesn't exist in other industries. You can't go start a coaching program right now not knowing anything and go try to make 100K, you know? But you could not know anything and flip a house and make 50K.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to transition to one last thing before we let you go. So let's talk about faith.
Okay.
So, like, do you have faith goals in 2025? And how do you feel like your faith went in 2024?
I think my faith grew the most it's ever grown this last year in terms of, and I've been a Christian almost my whole life. I grew up in the church. And so, yeah, I mean, I see what happened with Wealthy Kingdom, the summit, Kingdom Nights, everything we did on that front. I see my own spiritual growth, my family. I saw miraculous things really for the first time in my life. You know, we saw people healed. We saw demons cast out. I saw lots of people be given spiritual gifts, just prophetic words, things that just literally are straight out of the Bible happening today. So I'm really excited for what's to come and sharing a lot of those stories and doing more of it. You know, having the faith to believe that, you know, God could heal someone through me is like a totally different feeling. You know, instead of being like, man, like, I hope you get better. It's like, no, we're going to pray right now. And to actually believe that they can be healed right now is not normal. And so, but that's, I've seen it now, like multiple times.
So do you think you estimated the power of prayer?
Underestimated?
Yeah.
I don't want to say I underestimated the power of prayer. It's like anything in life, especially business, where you don't believe it until you see it, really. Like, you could read about it.
Yeah.
But then you do your first flip and you make money. You're like, wow, this is actually real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that faith is the same way, where you read about all these things in the Bible. You're like, yeah, I mean, they got healed. And like, I believe God could still heal people.
Yeah.
But until it like actually happens through you,
Yeah.
it's a different level of faith, because I've heard of people being healed. I've heard of miraculous things, but I never personally was a part of it.
Yeah.
And then to be a part of different things, to see all these miraculous things happen, to see visions that I'm like, whoa, what was that? And then to see it happen, literally as the vision was. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is crazy. But it's all in the Bible. It's all right there.
Yeah, I think like we got to go into some detail, because people, like, I know what you're talking about, but no one listening to this knows what you're talking about. But with visions, really quick, so even with everything, I've been asking for more, like, you know, can I have more visions? Can I have more dreams? Can I have more faith? Can I have all these things? Can I have better sleep?
Yeah.
I've been asking and I've been receiving.
Yep.
And with visions specifically, I told you, like, for the listeners, maybe we'll go into the story, but I saw this room with like this like step stool thing with like a pillow on top. And you asked me if I still see it. And I was like, I haven't even thought about it. And now when I think about it, I see it like just kind of being wiped away. Like I could just see that over and over again. And then I was like, okay, what is the vision? And now sometimes when I try to see a vision, I see like a circle light that's like almost powerful, and it's like almost purifying me. So I could almost see like melting gold. And then when they melt gold and then it hardens, like the impurities come up, that's what I feel like I see now. And it hurts. Yeah. It doesn't, like, I feel like, and it sucks because we're not giving any context to what's happened here in like the last month or so. So like, it's like a conversation between you and I. So the listeners can't really get it, but that's what it feels like. I thought the sanctification process was like this sweet thing where you're just like, dude, I'm just more and more happier. No, I'm getting more and more.
Sanctification is pruning. Yeah.
And it hurts. Like, I feel like mass conviction now when I do something wrong or for things that I did in the past.
Yep.
Like, I feel like I'm feeling heavy conviction. And I talked to some of the people at the office about it, like Jocelyn. I was like, yeah, like I feel like these convictions. She's like, yeah, when I started the sanctification process, I used to cry every day for like years. I was like, damn, I wish I would have known that before. Before I started asking for this. This is kind of tough. But yeah, so I don't know where you think we should start this conversation.
Well, there's a lot. So to give context, we had Kingdom Nights here for those wondering. So it's a free event we do. We're doing another one in Orange County on January 24th and 25th. So if you guys want to go to kingdomrevivals.com. It's absolutely free. And it's based upon John 4:24, where Jesus says we're to worship in spirit and truth.
Yeah.
And so day one is all worship in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Day two is about truth. And so day two is like workshop style. Like I teach on growing in your faith, your family, and your finances. But day one, where you got convicted, was in the spirit. And man, we spent the whole day that day prepping the room, praying. I brought in a guy, his name's Ben, who's awesome, and he can actually see in the spirit. He can see angels, he can see demons, he can see a lot of things. And I've gotten glimpses of seeing in the spirit with demons and other things. That's a whole different subject. But anyways, he prayed over a bunch of people, you included, and lots of people were just like what we would call falling out in the spirit, in that they just could not even hold their bodies. Mm-hmm. It was just like dropping.
Yeah.
And you see it online too, like people being prayed over and just falling.
Yeah.
Right? And most people think it's fake. And it's just like, okay, whatever. I'm sure some of it is.
Yeah.
But there's many times where it's real. I've now seen it many times.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with speaking in tongues. People think it's gibberish. I've seen it many times.
Mm-hmm.
It happened to you. Happened to me. Happened to lots of people that night, actually. We didn't pray for it. It just happened.
Yeah.
I've seen demons cast out now. You've seen it now too.
Yeah.
And I think you were asking me, you're like, dude, I wish we would have filmed that. That was crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, even if we filmed it, people would still think it's fake.
I know. Yeah.
And it's like, it is what it is, right? So skepticism will always stop you. And that's also what stopped me from really believing a lot of these things too.
Yeah.
Because I just am naturally skeptical. I'm always looking for like the way that this doesn't work or the way it could be wrong.
Yeah.
That's the way my brain thinks. It's like, how does this not work?
Yeah.
And if I cannot find a reason why it won't work, then I go 100% all in.
Yeah.
So anyways, reason I bring all that up is because, it happened for you. Mm-hmm. You got prayed over, and then you went to this room like you talked about, and you saw the pillow and the footstool and all this. And I believe that based on what you were telling me, you were doing something what's called traveling in the spirit. Mm-hmm. And this is not uncommon. If you think about what Revelations is, that is just John traveling in the spirit, seeing different things. And it happens many times throughout the Bible. It's not just John. And people have visions, people have dreams. Like all of this is throughout the Bible. So, and I've had lots of them that have come true, like very quickly. And I think for you, the way I would describe that room that you're talking about, because it keeps changing, the room is the same, but what's happening in the room keeps changing.
Yeah.
I think that room is like a meeting place for you and God. And I think that when you go to that room, he's showing you what's the next step. And I think that the first thing he showed you with the pillow and everything was for you to get on your knees and pray and worship and everything else. And you did that.
Yeah.
Like literally, physically, you did that.
Yeah.
And that's when all of these things started happening to you.
Yeah.
And then now I think that he's going to continue to reveal the next step in your life in that room.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that now too, because since that day, I have been getting on my knees and praying where I really didn't do that before.
Yep.
And I would almost always, when I would pray before, I'd just pray in my head, like in bed or if I'm laying on the couch or something like that. And now I make it an effort to like get on my knees and pray.
It's a posture of worship.
Yeah.
Like all the things in the Bible, most people don't think of them literally, but when they say like we anointed them with oil, literally, there's something that happens when you anoint with oil. There's something that happens when you lay hands on somebody who's sick. It doesn't say, hey, just pray for the sick. It says, hey, get 2 people to go lay hands on him and pray for him to be healed. Yet we just don't really think of it that way.
Yeah.
And even with like what you're experiencing, another gift is being able to interpret. And so, if you look at Daniel, he gets called out of prison because Pharaoh has these dreams. And they don't really, he's like, I know these dreams are from God. I just don't know what they mean. So Pharaoh had visions. He wasn't even a believer, by the way. So God can give visions to anyone. And, Daniel was able to interpret them.
Yeah. What about so I guess what was the biggest thing for you this year spiritually, biggest experience?
Dude, I'd have to tell the whole story of an hour, and I don't think we have time for that. But I think it happened to me 4 months ago when I was at a church service at a church in OC called Oceans Church. So shout out to Pastor Mark. Him and I had been talking, and we were at the Elevation Worship concert with all of our tent makers in Wealthy Kingdom. I was like, well, I'm in town. I want to go check out Orange County because I think we're going to have a Kingdom Nights in Orange County, which now we are, right? So it was all just part of this God leading. And at that day at church, they had a special guest speaker named Sean Smith, who's now a friend of mine. And dude, literally, he just started healing people and giving words of knowledge and prophecy on stage to just people in the crowd, just pointing at me. And he pointed at me. And I was like, oh, crap. Is he about to
He's about to knock me out.
Yeah. And he was actually pointing at the guy right behind me who was by himself.
Yeah.
And I watched this guy as he was getting this word just fall to his knees and start crying and bawling.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was just like, that was real.
That
was crazy. And Javi was standing right next to me. And Mindy was there and Sam was there. And I was just like, what is going on? How can he do this? This is crazy. So I was like, I got to meet this guy. Well, I couldn't find him after the service, so I bought his books, and I'm starting to read his books. And I see he's friends with a guy who's a friend of mine named Sean Bowles. And so I hit Sean up. I'm like, dude, can you introduce me to this guy? Like, I got to learn. So he introduces me to him. And he's like, dude, I got an event coming up in like 2 months. Like, you should come. I'm like, I'm in. It's in San Fran. So I ended up going to his event. But even before I went to his event, it was like seeing unlock something in my faith, where it was like, I now believed at a more, and this is why I say you have to get around. This goes back to anything. It's not just faith. Like, the moment I went to Grant Cardone's office and I saw what he was doing, it unlocked a new belief in me of what was possible. Faith is the same way. I watched a guy operate in the full power of the Holy Spirit, whereas most Christians don't. Most Christians not even close to tapping in to what's available to them. And I watched it and I was like, that was real. I got to learn how to do that. Not for my own glory or anything, but because this is what they did in the Bible. This is what God wants us to do. These is why these gifts are available to us. Why Corinthians talks about it. Romans talks about it. It's just been suppressed as time has gone on. And I think that that's part of Satan's great deceit, is making that stuff seem fake. And so people don't believe it's possible. So anyways, along the way, now that my mind, let's just say my eyes were open spiritually to what's possible, I started to get prophetic dreams. And so I had a dream about, particular demon with my family. I had dreams about people here in this office that I could just vividly see. And, when I asked them about it, it was all true. Yeah. There was no way I could have known. Then I started to get prophetic words from other people, and it was all the same. I started to, my business coach, Gary Harper, he called me, this was a couple of months ago, and it was like 6 a.m. He never would call me at 6 a.m, and he's just crying, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? He's like, I feel like the Holy Spirit was calling, like telling me to call you. I'm like, what's up? He's like, dude, I just need you to pray for me. I go, what happened? He said, I just found out, like, I have a tumor the size of a grapefruit on my kidney. And I'm like, all right, well, let's pray. I watched this other guy heal somebody. I think, who knows, right?
Yeah.
And so I could, I started praying for him. And as I was praying, I had felt something I'd never felt before, where it was like I could feel like power from the Holy Spirit coming down on me and then leaving me as I was praying. And I'd never felt that before. And I was like, I got done. I was like, how do you feel? He's like, dude, I actually feel like different, like warm and good. I was like, okay, well, when do you find out, like, when do you go back and whatever? He's like, I'm actually going to have to go get an MRI in like six hours. So, I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Because at that point they knew there was a tumor. And they're like, now we got to go check if it's cancerous. So they do it. He calls me. He's like, dude, you'll never believe what happened. I was like, what? He said, well, the tumor, they said, has liquefied. It's just full of fluid now. And they don't even have to do, like, there's no cancer, there's nothing. They don't even have to do a surgery. All they have to do now is just put a needle in it and drain it. And it's done. And I was like, is that normal? He's like, they said that is not normal at all. And, like, they don't ever see that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, praise God. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, like, that happened. The dreams happened. And then, we were in Bible study, and one of the guys, we're just talking about all this stuff, and he has a demon. Or he's like, dude, I used to dabble in witchcraft. My dad was in all this stuff. Like, we've sacrificed animals and done some crazy things. He's like, can you pray over me? And I'm like, sure. So we start praying over him. And, once again, I don't really know what I'm doing. Yeah. I just start praying as the Holy Spirit leads me. And, nothing's happening for like 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden, I just start speaking in tongues, because this was just like what I felt like the Spirit was calling me to do. Then, you were there. Yeah. The moment I started doing that, he just started going nuts. Yeah. Dude, he started growling, going crazy. This is a normal guy.
Yeah. And I know him too. So it's not like
dude,
a random.
He starts growling, going crazy. I'm like, wow, like, this is going down. And, we deliver him.
and cast the demon out. And then I go and do a podcast right after.
Yeah.
I had like work to do. This is at the office. and like everybody in the office around was like, they asked us they're like, was somebody performing surgery or something? Like,
Yeah.
it was loud.
Yeah, it was loud.
And we were like, no, just casting out a demon.
Yeah.
And then like when I went to go to the podcast, he like fell in the hallway. You were out there because you were like, dude, you're going to have to come get him again.
Yeah.
And he just fell and starts yelling and screaming and saying his chest hurts and all this stuff. So then like you guys cast another one out. So then I finished the podcast, come back out. There's like 3 next ones we got to cast out.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
How was it for you seeing that?
Dude, honestly, you know what's interesting? So I think my mindset might be like a lot of people listening to this. It's not that I thought the spiritual stuff was fake. I just didn't know if it was for me. And I think I told you in the office one time, I was like, yeah, like I believe it, but I don't know if it's like, if I am able to do it. So after watching that, and then I have gone on date nights with this guy. Like I've known him for a while. So there's no way that he just made that up. Where if I would have seen that if that was someone else, I'm like, maybe they're crazy. Maybe they're like, so knowing him, I was like, dang. And then just seeing everything until the guy that was here, Ben, prayed on me, and then me kind of like falling into the chair and just crying harder than I've ever cried in my life. I would have never thought that was possible. And it was interesting because like I'm speeding through everything, but we were talking about how you try to baptize me, or maybe you did baptize me in the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel anything. I was just like, well, let me like, and then you said I had a blockage.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me like try. So I started meeting with Elisa. I started doing different things. And then for that guy to come in. So I just feel like you have to seek it.
Yeah.
Then you'll receive it.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah. It's not just like, it's just going to randomly happen.
Yeah. I can't just go to everybody and be like, boom.
Yeah.
You're speaking in tongues now.
Yeah.
Like the other person has to also earnestly seek and have faith.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with healing and other things too.
Yeah.
But even a year ago, it's the same thing. When I prayed over you to release your anxiety, you didn't have anxiety after that.
Yeah.
And that was a year ago.
Yeah.
Before all these things happened.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize this, but when it comes to faith, signs and wonders are the reason people believed in the New Testament.
Yeah.
Like Jesus didn't just hop into cities and do nothing. And it was just like, you guys should believe that I'm the Son of God.
Yeah.
Like him and the disciples all went to cities, did signs and wonders. Then people were like, all right, I'll listen to whatever you guys have to say.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
And then they would listen and they would believe because they saw things.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't mean people have to see things to truly believe, but I can tell you when you see things, your belief will go even further.
Yeah.
It's happened for me. It happened for you.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like long story short, all those things started to happen. But the biggest thing was when I went to that event, a whole bunch of things happened at that event with Sean. But during the event, I kind of reached a breaking point where I was just like, God, like, and I just started to cry. And I'm not a crier. And I was like, God, like, I just need more power. Like, if you want me to do all these things that you're calling me to do with evangelism and all this stuff, I was like, I need more power. And it's not for me, but it's for like the burden that you're going to place on me. Mm-hmm. And if you want me to go out and do these prophetic things, like just bless me with it. Mm-hmm. Like, and I learned about the value of what's called impartation of throughout the Bible, people laying hands on people and giving them power and gifts and things that they have. And I was like, I don't know. Like if somebody needs to lay hands on me who's got these gifts, like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I'm literally just sitting there while speaker's speaking, sitting in the front row. And one of the speakers, who's this other girl, while I'm sitting there, nothing's happening. Mm-hmm. She comes and sits next to me, puts her hand on me, and she goes, take a deep breath. God is filling you with more power right now. Mm-hmm. And he's going to mark you for this mission right now. And so I took a deep breath, and all of a sudden, I'd never felt this, and I never felt it since. It felt like lightning struck me. Mm. It was crazy. And I felt like electricity flow through my body and cycle through me for like 15 seconds.
She's like, just take a deep breath, take a deep breath. And I'm just sitting there like, dude, literally like freaking out because I had just asked for it in my mind. Nobody knew. We're just sitting there in the middle of an event with hundreds of people. And this happens in the front row. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what's happening to me. So afterwards, like, I could put the DM there. I message her and I'm like, how did you know to do that? And she said, I was just sitting there worshiping and God gave me a vision. And he said that I needed to go over to you right now and lay hands on you, and that he was marking you and going to give you power. And I knew if I didn't do it, I was being disobedient. And I was just like, it's crazy. Literally. Like, that was the craziest thing. Out of all the things I've seen, that for me was the craziest. And after that moment was when I started to have those different visions. That's when we cast out the demon. And remember, I told you guys that too. I was telling you guys the story on Monday. When I got back, I was like, this is what happened. It was crazy. I was like, I think we're about to like see some really crazy stuff here, like soon.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, we're casting out a demon.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So,
did it hurt, the electricity, or what did it feel like? Or did it feel good? What did that feel like?
it just felt like I had literally been shocked. It didn't hurt. It was just like, I don't even know how to describe it because I've never felt it before. But it was like, if I could describe it now, like I said, it felt like getting electrocuted from the top down. And then it felt like my body was being renewed through the current. It was just like cycling through my body.
Dang.
And then, yeah, I mean, I've just seen so many things since then that are supernatural.
Yeah.
And so now what it makes you do too is like, it makes you realize that, nothing else really matters. Mm-hmm. You're just like, wow, all this stuff is real. And my first thought was there's a lot of people that we could help, but there's also a lot of people who don't believe. Mm-hmm. And if this is real, we know the consequences are real too. And there's a lot of people going to hell who don't know it.
Dang.
And that was my thought, was like, wow. And like, I've always had strong faith that like the Bible is true and I've seen things. But then once I saw that, especially that moment where she knew, there's no way she could have known to pray for me that very moment, seconds after asking for it.
Oh, that was seconds after you asked.
Yeah, it wasn't like, it was literally in the moment.
Dang. I didn't know that.
And I was like, well, that literally made it so 100%. Like maybe I was like 96. Mm-hmm. That made it 100. And I'm just like, well, what do we do with all these people who don't know?
Yeah.
Because they could be healed right now. Their lives could be infinitely better. And they don't know. And they're naive enough to just like keep living life this way. And it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah, I think we'll leave a link for Wealthy Kingdom in the description of this video. But the last thing I'll say about everything is like, before you think some things are normal. Like I thought lusting for women and pornography was normal before.
Yep.
I was like, oh, in my mind, I'm like, oh, like all men do it. Like we don't talk about it, but that's a thing. And I'm just going to live with that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And, we had we had a deliverance on it, but during that deliverance, honestly, I was just like, man, like it's crazy that I don't struggle with that anymore.
Yeah.
Where I thought that was life.
Yep.
I was like, man, it's kind of weird. Like I could look at a beautiful woman and be like, oh, that's a beautiful woman. Just like I could look at a good looking man and be like, that's a good looking guy. That's Blake. Like that guy's good looking. and that's as far as it goes. It doesn't go any further than just like, oh, cool. That's a cool car. But now I'm like, oh, wow. Like that wasn't normal and you could be delivered from that.
Yeah.
I thought before
Anxiety.
I'm like, dude, you're just anxious. You're just like, oh crap. Like, I have to be careful because I'm not safe and I got to make sure everything's good. And I got to wake up in the middle of the night and worry. And I have to just always feel like I'm about to go public speak, even though I'm just sitting down. I thought that was normal. And then when it's gone, you're like, oh, like that wasn't normal. I was just used to it.
What people don't realize is they want to give a worldly diagnosis for everything, when in reality, there's this whole spiritual realm where a lot of those things are demonic.
Yeah.
And it's demonic oppression. Doesn't mean you're possessed where you can't control yourself.
Yeah.
But it's this oppression.
But sometimes you can control yourself, I feel like.
Well, 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, you will never be tempted beyond what you can bear. But if you are tempted, God will always provide a way out. So,
But that's if you believe in God. Or is that always?
I'd have to
like,
look
I
at
would
the
have-
exact promise of it. But
I would have loved to not be anxious. I would love to not have been lusting because I
Yeah.
always would feel shame and like,
yeah.
so
Well,
like,
it doesn't say you'll never be tempted. You'll never be tempted beyond what you can bear. So
Okay.
you will always have a way out of being tempted.
okay.
That's what the promise is.
Okay.
So, at the end of the day, I think with my point is with lust and anxiety and these other things.
Anger and
Yeah, I
greed.
had a similar thing where I grew up watching porn, and even after I got married, and it was always shameful. And then 7 years ago, I got delivered from it, literally from somebody praying over me, and the desire went away completely.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched porn in 7 years.
Yeah.
I would have never imagined that.
Yeah. Same
know?
as me. Yeah.
So, yes, I think that things like that are usually, I would say actually usually now at this point becoming more aware, spiritual more than anything.
Yeah.
Because it's not like physically my mind changed or
Yeah.
some brain composition thing happened. Like, you can't just explain the desire just vanished
Yeah.
out of thin air.
Yeah.
Like, that would be the illogical conclusion.
Yeah.
Like, the logical conclusion is somebody prayed over me, the desire went away, therefore what happened?
Yeah.
And you start to learn about demons and, oppression and all that, and you realize, like, oh yeah, most things, no, I don't want to say most, I don't know, but a lot of things
Yeah.
are just demonic oppression.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, if you're still listening to this podcast, in the comments, leave like a fire emoji so we know you're still here. But if people want to find you, or what do you want to tell people? We're wrapping up.
I mean, dude, whatever.
We'll put Kingdom in the description
Yeah,
of this video.
wealthykingdom.com. Join us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, guys. Well, we got to go. Thank you for listening to the podcast.